Greetings all, welcome to another episode of Pen and Paint, the channel where I merge my love of miniature painting with my growing passion for writing. In this episode, we'll be painting squigs. I frickin' love painting these bouncy balls of teeth. We're going to be focusing most of the painting on the skin itself this episode, as it's the only complex material on the model. That means fewer video cuts and transitions so you can better see what it is I'm doing. If you want to see how I painted the grot hopper on this toothy fellow's back, check out the first video in the series, A Pokey Stick, for a full breakdown. A complete list of all paints used for each material is on screen now. Paints will also be noted as they're used. Video timestamps are available for each step of the painting process. If you'd like to read today's story or listen to it without the video, links to pure text and audio versions are in the video description below. Feel free to mute the video if you're only here for the painting. Today's video is A Face Full of Teeth. When you're stuck between a rusty blade and razor-sharp teeth, get bouncing. This story is rated E for everyone.
How's this a good idea?
Glicky whispered.
I didn't say it was a good idea. I said it was a great idea.
And it was a great idea. In the moderate safety of the warren, emboldened by fungus brew and surrounded by hosts of hollering, rambunctious goblins, the plan may have even seemed a brilliant one. Now they were in the moment, however, and Glicky, thinking the plan through proper-like, had some reservations, particularly regarding his desire to, well, remain alive at the end of it.
I don't know. I think it might be hard to stay put with only one leg. Then don't let it eat your leg. Anyways,
Pillock said consolingly.
You've got two arms to hold on with, so it might not be too bumpy.
Glicky gave the other goblin a dubious look.
If that's the case, why don't you distract it? It was your ideas after all. 'Cause it was my idea, Glicky. That's why. There's two kinds of gobs. Them's with brains and them's without. I had the brains this time. Maybe next time, yous get 'em. Now, quit stalling, you scaredy gob, and beat the hopper. Marching is all fun, except when you's in the front. 'Cause in the front, there ain't no other gobs between yous and the enemy.
Glicky nodded in agreement.
That's right. Course that's right. There's no fun in stabbing if you're gonna get stabbed yourself.
Pillock sat on the ground across from his flagger, his upturned shield resting between them on their knees to form a crude table. The two had found a reasonably quiet corner to enjoy some fungus ale while Pillock explained his secret plan for the upcoming march.
But that's what the whirligobs is for. They don't care if they get stabbed. They pop out at the front and just swing about with their chain and bowl and splat all them raddies and get splattered themselves when they hit their own face with their own metal bowl. Or worse, they splatter you. There's that.
Glicky conceded, taking a swig.
Them gobs is just as dangerous as the raddies, if yous ask me. Now where was I? Something about marching.
Pillock tugged at his ear, trying to get the thought loose.
Marching ain't fun at the front.
Glicky said.
Oh yeah, that's right. And that's where the big boss is so clever. He knows the gobs in the front is gonna try and run away, so he makes it so they can't. The hoppers.
Glicky shuddered.
Aye, the hoppers. They're stinking furry stabbers in front of yous and a face full of teeth at the back of yous. That's not my idea of a fun time, Glicky. No, it isn't. They don't call him Nick Beat the Snaky for nothing.
Glicky agreed absently, then went quiet. Boss Pillock narrowed his eyes.
What's the matter, Glicky? You's all sad and such. You's agreed that being in the front is terrible, but you don't seem too concerned at being stuck in it.
His flagger shrugged.
It's not like we's got much to say in this situation, is it? We was told by the big boss himself to go to the front. Ain't a thing we can do about it.
The goblin took another small sip and slumped down.
We was told by the big boss.
Not.
Yous was told by the big boss.
Pillock rolled his mug in his scrabbly green hands. He was a good goblin, Glicky. Best flagger Pillock ever had. Only Flagger he ever had, mind you. He knew the gob blamed him for the mess Pillock had got them in, but unlike Dittos who skedaddled as soon as the chance presented itself, leaving his clanger and pole in a heap, Glicky said nothing and stuck on. Finding a loyal gob in a sea of shifty-eyed fungus munchers was a hard thing to do, which was the very reason why Pillock had racked his brain trying to figure out a way to make it up to Glicky. If his big mouth got them sent to the front lines, maybe a big idea could get them out of it.
Okays,
Glicky relented.
all goes. But don't let it alone too long, boss. That thing is mostly thieves and I can't avoid them forever. At least the boss is gonna let me try the thing out first.
Glicky thought. That's why he respected Pillock more than any other gob. Every boss was supposed to correct you when you did something wrong, usually with a swift whack on the head or jab in the ribs. Some bosses, but by no means all of them, would reward you if you did something especially good, often by letting you have second pick from any loot from a scrum. The bosses always got the first pick. What bosses never did, however, was admit when they themselves had fouled things up. Except for Pillock. Glicky had never known another boss to say he'd made a mistake and that he was sorry. Well, Pillock never actually apologized for anything he did wrong, which was quite a lot on reflection, but Glicky knew he was sorry and that's what counted. The small greenskin tiptoed from out behind the cluster of short stalagmites the two had been lurking behind, and towards a low hillock of pale purple fungus nearby the cave wall. He kept his beady little eyes fixed on the back of the ferocious creature a stone's throw from him, ready to run shrieking if it decided to turn around.
But that's the thing, my glum-toothed friend. We's don't have to be stuck at the front. We's don't?
Glicky raised his sad eyes.
Nope. Yous underestimate the big boss. He ain't just sneaky, he's clever too. Nitbit ain't about to get a gob stickered even he's useful to him.
Glicky's brows furrowed.
Sure thing. Every gob knows that. But how's that supposed to help us?
He leaned back and spread his short arms out, one hand gripping a crude tumbler, the other open with palm upturned.
Yous has to admit we's not the most promising lot, and without Dittos, there's only two of us. How's two simple little gobs gonna prove their worth to the big boss?
Pillock found it hard to drink with such a massive grin plastered across his face. He wiped the dribbles of ale off his chin and neck with the back of his hand.
'Cause I've got a plan, Glicky, and it only needs the two of us to get off the front lines.
The flagger's mood was lifting.
Something like that. Depends on how clever old Nitpick actually is when he sees what we've done.
Glicky's improving disposition quickly shifted to one of suspicion.
And what have we done, boss?
He asked, eyes narrowing.
It's what we're gonna do, Glicky. Which is...
The goblin's grin was ready to split his face in two.
This can only go wrong.
Glicky edged his way along the wall as quietly as he could, every step bringing him closer and closer to the beast before him. Everything about a cave hopper screamed danger. Little more than massive balls of muscle and teeth, as tall as a goblin and shaded a brilliant orange, cave hoppers were giant mouths with stubby tails, no arms, and massively powerful legs with taloned feet. Their awkward, ambling, bobbing walk and inability to run particularly fast belied their terrifying ability to launch themselves incredible distances both vertically and horizontally. They were foul-tempered, ate anything that moved, most things that didn't, and were only marginally smarter than a rock. Their mouths, which took up about 70% of their body, were crammed full of jagged, razor-sharp teeth, with some as long as a gob's arm. While it was true that Nitbit the Sneaky pioneered the use of cave hoppers as morale boosters during battle, goblins had been breeding and tending the surly beasts as long as anyone could remember. The variety of beasts that herders wrangled were, while no less irritable and far from docile, at least manageable. They were kept towards the edges of a warren, well away from normal gob society and penned in by jagged fences surrounding low-ceiled alcoves that were used as much for food as for battle. While their meat was tough and a little bland, cave hoppers ate whatever was too noxious for even a gob and helped to keep a warren relatively clean. The thing in front of Glicky, however, was decidedly not a herding hopper.
Does it have to be a wild one, boss? That seems a bit dangerous. I mean, even more so than normal. Couldn't we just ask old Whizbat Half-Face to lend us one? I'm sure the god would agree, even just for a laugh. Nah, it's gotta be wild. Ain't no herding hopper gonna do it. They're pretty scrappy and jumpy, sure, but they don't got the same bounciness as a wild one. Besides, I don't want another gob knowing about the plan. All it takes is for some lucky gob spying on us while we're messing about with that cranky herder to get smart of the idea. By the time we've tested out the fundamentals, the other gob bounces in and gets the credit, and we're stuck at the front. But even if this works, boss, we're still gonna be stuck at the front. Like the whirly gobs. Nah, Glicky, we's gonna be over it. Out of reach of the raddies before us, and out of reach of the thieves behind us.
Glicky was silent a moment, then gave a single, hearty nod, throwing back the last of his ale.
All right, let's do it. Almost certain death is better than certain death anyways. That's the spirit, Glicky.
Pillock cheered.
One more round and then we head out. Ways ain't got too long before we march after all. It's sleeping. That's why it ain't turned around yet.
Glicky let out a silent wheeze of air. Rage-fueled and heedless as they were, cave hoppers were profound sleepers. Having made his way to the very front of the beast, Glicky spied Pillock on the other side. He stuck his hands together, rested his head against them, and mimed an exaggerated snore before waving his boss over. Pillock made his way cautiously, large, heavy club held high and at the ready.
Will all be,
he whispered.
I ain't ever seen one sleeping standing up before. They usually just rolling around with the legs stuck out. Me neither, boss. What's that mean for the plan? We still just gonna bash it in the head and knock it out proper? We could.
Pillock said, weighing the club as he eyed the hopper.
Dunno, though. Somehow I don't feel sporting. It's one thing to crump a ratty in his sleep, that's always fun. But this ain't exactly what you call an enemy.
Glicky thought it over.
I mean, it's still better than risking a limb waking it up just to knock it out. But I think I see what you mean.
The two goblins mulled over the predicament, studying the menacing beast while it swayed gently as if caught in a breeze.
I wonder,
Glicky said softly. Pillock raised a brow.
Get the rope, boss. I've got an idea. You's ready, Glicky?
The goblin nodded. Pillock raised his club over his head.
Okay. Gently now.
This was either a brilliant idea or a terrible one. Whichever it ended up being, both gobs agreed that they were unlikely to ever have the opportunity to try it again, so why not? They had made a small noose in the end of the rope they had intended to tie up the hopper with after knocking it out, and carefully looped it over the largest snaggletooth protruding out of the massive mouth. Glicky had played the rest of it out, and now stood at the other end.
Here goes nothing.
Grasping the rope in his hands, he pulled gently and with constant force. The hopper bent forward. Glicky pulled a little harder. The hopper tipped a little further. Pillock leant back and tensed his arms. A little harder still. A little further still. And the hopper rolled forward and took a step, righting itself. Pillock bent around and scrutinized its face, club hovering over the beast's lumpen head. The eyes were still closed. He looked at Glicky and grinned.
I think this might actually work. We both knows I'm the prettier one, boss. Besides, I's got the brains this time, so now you's got to risk your face.
While he certainly disagreed with the first statement, it was hard for Pillock to contest the validity of the second.
Also,
Glicky continued in a whisper,
how's else you gonna get out of there?
they had led the hopper into a nearby knobbly alcove. Pillock, wanting very much to have a go at leading the hopper, had gotten a bit carried away, and not paying attention to his surroundings, ended up stuck between the rear of the alcove and the beast, whose rotund body filled the opening. The goblin was pressed hard against the wall, his long pointed nose a finger width away from the hopper's stubby one. The beast snorted lightly in its sleep, jerking slightly and nearly skewering Pillock through the ribs with a mighty tooth.
Yous can pull the rope the other way?
Pillock suggested with a mumble.
Maybe turns him about so I can scramble out.
He heard his flagger shuffle around.
Nah,
The gob whispered.
there's no room. His tail's gonna hit the wall. Anyways, you standing on the rope.
Pillock craned his neck awkwardly, straining his eyes down.
Oh, heckin' shrooms. Come on, boys. There's no telling when it's gonna wake up. I's got your club all ready in case it don't work.
Pillock wheezed out a sigh of acceptance, pursing his lips so the air blew up and gnawed into the hopper's face.
Okays,
He murmured.
get ready, Glicky.
The other gob raised the club. Pillock squirmed his hand up between him and the hopper and took a deep, quiet breath. He hesitated, steeling himself, then gave the creature a mighty flick on the nose. The hopper blinked its groggy eyes open. Pillock, screwing his face up into the most hideous expression he could manage, let loose with a horrendous, high-pitched shriek. The beast recoiled back in a deranged panic, crouching low to the ground before propelling itself upward with full force, and directly into the alcove's low ceiling. There was an almighty crack as the beast's skull struck stone and it collapsed into a limp heap at Pillock's feet. The two gobs looked at the beast, then at each other, eyes wide with fright.
Is it dead?
Pillock asked in a low tone, still glued to the wall. Glicky poked it with the club. When it didn't respond, he inched over and put his ear against its side.
Nah,
He said after a pause.
just knocked out.
Pillock carefully extricated himself from the alcove, climbing gingerly over the hopper, wary that at any moment it might wake up and snap him in half. The goblin stood behind it for a few moments, wondering at their success. Glicky turned to Pillock.
Me first.
He said with a toothy smile. Dintle swung her dangling legs, enjoying the scene below her. From her high vantage on the edge of the big boss's lookout, the warren was a murmuring riot of swarming greens and dirty tans. Groups of goblins streamed behind their banners as bosses brought their disheveled charges into some semblance of order. The din of clangers filled the chamber. Way off to one side she spied a trio of pink-skinned trolls being led out by a shiny gob in attendance. On the other side, the hopper pens with their low-roped roofs were filling up as herders goaded in their charges. The big boss, busy with his own preparations for the march, had little use for her at the moment, so Dintle, knowing how ragged she'd be run once the fighting started, was making ample use of the lull to do absolutely nothing. There was a shift in the ebb and flow down below. The currents slowed almost imperceptibly. Something was distracting the gobs. Dintle lifted a looky lens for a closer view. The useless gobs were stopping to turn and face the rear thoroughfare. The clangor slowed their music making, the constant sharp buzz of hammering quieting. It was then that Dintle's keen ears picked out the sound. It was screaming, quiet-like for the distance. She peeked over the lookies and squinted at the thoroughfare. There, at the back, an orange bouncy dot. Dintle snapped back to the lookies. Her jaw dropped. The warren was quiet now, save for the screaming. Except it wasn't screams that rose up to her, but shrieks. High-pitched shrieks. Shrieks of wild, manic delight. The crazy gob had a fistful of hopper skin in one death grip, a club flailing about his head in the other. At each massive 30-foot leap, the gob bounced down on the hopper's rubbery back and right back up to join its mount in another mighty explosion. When they landed at the intersection of the thoroughfare and the path up the main concourse, the rider managed to club the hopper in the side of the head just before it leapt, changing its direction. The tide of greenskins parted desperately before it as the crazed cavalry charged straight towards the lookout.
Boss?
Dintle said over her shoulder.
Oi, boss! I think you's gonna want to see this.
That was A Face Full of Teeth, inspired by the Gloomspite Gitz Squig Hopper models produced by Games Workshop. I hope you enjoyed the tale. As I said in the opening, I love squigs, and I'm really pleased with the results. While squigs are traditionally painted red, I wanted to keep red for eyes and blood effects. Orange keeps things bright, contrasts well with green grot skin, and is easy to make vibrant. If you're wondering why on earth I magnetized these guys, I had originally intended to use both the Hopper and Stabba models in the Old World as well as Age of Sigmar, and wanted to be able to swap out round bases for square ones. While that's no longer the case, I've decided to go Orc and Monster heavy for the Old World. I will eventually branch out into Snarlfang models for my Gitz army. Since they'll have grassy bases, I can still swap out these underground ones for overground ones to provide a consistent look for the army. I do have Mangler squigs in the closet that I'm excited to get to at some point. They're a pair of giant-sized squigs that have been chained together and allowed to run amok. I'd like to finish off more Troggoths and my Loonshrine first, however, so it'll be a bit until the massive orange balls of teeth hit the hobby desk. Finally, I'd like to thank my wife Kelsey for reprising her role as Talkie Gob Dintle. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, questions, or feedback on anything you've seen in this episode, please comment below. That's it for today. See you next time.